Ladies and gentlemen, it's time once again for another season of Chewing the Gristle with yours truly, Greg Kaw. Can you believe it's already season 6? We've got so many cool interviews lined up. Are we going to talk about music? You betcha. But what else are we going to talk about? Well, quite frankly, anything that comes to mind. So stay tuned, doggone it. Let's chew that doggone gristle. Season 6. Come. This week on Chewing the Gristle, not only do we have a guitar-playing potentate, an artist in his own right, but he's a producer, a Grammy award-winning producer. That's right, Tyler Bryant, this week on Chewing the Gristle. Can't wait. Let's get involved. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome once again to another installment of Chewing the Gristle with yours truly, Gregory Cockery. I'm here with the mighty Tyler Bryant, performer, guitar slinger, Grammy award-winning producer. Hell of a nice fella. What the hell's going on, Tyler? What's new? What's happening?
Hey man, I've been working on this studio for the last 18 months, and I'm finally making music in here. And I think I was probably in the thick of it the last time I ran into you in Fort Wayne.
Yes.
But man, I was tickled whenever I got a text message from you asking to hang out, because I've been a fan of you for so long, and I was like, yeah, I want to hang out and shoot it with Greg. Sounds
you know
like
what?
fun.
I'm trying to think of when we first met. It had to have been back in, I think, Fender days for me, when I was, I think maybe at that Fender University. Remember when we did that a couple times?
Mm-hmm.
And you were a wee lad. Well, of course, I was weer than I am now, but you were a youngster.
Yeah, I think correct me if I'm wrong. Did you ever play the Dallas Guitar Show?
Yes. But I think that's when I started playing the Dallas Guitar Show. I think that was after we had met for the first time.
Okay.
Many yarns ago.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I have a memory of you playing there, but man, yeah, it's great to get to hang out.
And then I remember we talked at, you were playing at Summerfest one year in Milwaukee, and when I saw you there as well. And we were like, hey,
yeah,
what's going on?
Was that the year Buddy Guy played?
I think so.
I just remember being so bummed because we had to play, and then we had to like run to make some stupid, ridiculous all-night drive, as we do.
As we do.
And we didn't get to stay and watch Buddy Guy that night. And I just remember that was like one of a couple of experiences where I was like, we're doing this wrong. We're saying yes to too much.
Yes.
You know?
Well, you've been hitting it hard for a long time now. Now, when did you end up, like, you're not from now, you're a Texan. So when did you end up saying, hey, I'm going to move to Nashville and make that my place?
Pretty much the day I turned 17, I moved.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. And it wasn't because I had a bad relationship with my family. My family's always been super great and supportive and cool. It was more of like, my small town was 1,700 people at best, and none of them played the music that I was into. I didn't have anyone to just like converse about, how great I thought Johnny Winter was, or,
right,
my favorite Jeff Beck records, or, any of that. And I really wanted to like find some guys to play with that were gonna get together with me every day and go out and hit the road. And also I was really intrigued by Nashville and the songwriting community, because I knew people who lived in Nashville based on just a couple of trips and visits, where it felt like people were just constantly collaborating, and I wanted that in my life. So I kind of dropped out of high school and moved to Nashville to do it. And
went to a school of a different sort.
I know. My mom's a teacher. My grandparents were like, my grandma was a teacher and my grandpa was a principal. So they were a little bit just like, golly, Tyler, you're almost about to graduate. Just finish. But so I moved to Nashville, started the Shakedown, took my last little few credits online, and then the day before graduation went and enrolled in high school in Honey Grove, Texas, and graduated.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I got a diploma, but my last year was spent, getting a publishing deal to sustain myself and putting my band together.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so your experience in Nashville up to this point, obviously you've been successful. Is it everything you thought it would be, or has it obviously with anything there's ups and downs, but overall you're pleased with being a Nashvilleian.
Yeah, I love Nashville. And I think I'm, as probably a lot of artists do, I think the word successful is something that I have a different meaning for every year. You know what I
Right.
mean? Um, success when I was 17 would have been like playing the biggest shows ever and doing, this and that and always and having people at every show. And like now as a 34-year-old man, success is getting to make cool music as much as I possibly can and
Right.
support my family and enjoying myself, because I think what I've learned over the years of doing it, and I'd be curious to know how you relate to this too. Doing 250 shows a year, I don't think was necessarily the best thing for my happiness.
Right.
You start to kind of get a little bit, I never didn't like playing, but sometimes the travel and all of that can when you're doing it as hard as we did it in the beginning, was always a little bit taxing.
Right. And
So,
what would you say your schedule has been like in the recent past as far as touring? Has it curtailed to a reasonable amount of road things versus producing and so on and so forth?
yeah, it's been like 50 to 70 shows a year.
Nice.
But just because I've kind of I don't know, I just follow wherever my passion is, and the thing that was bringing me the most joy there for, well, it's still I'm just obsessed with music, but being in the studio and working with other artists just makes me really happy. And I'm kind of a professional appreciator in the studio, to where that's sort of the stance I take when I'm producing with artists, is trying to like go, hey, hold on, do you realize that when you do this, that's super badass, and I want to hear that over and over, and I have goosebumps. So don't, maybe let's not do it again, and pay attention to what that thing is. And I just kind of I found that I had a knack for paying attention to other people's music and what it made me feel. And I just leaned in and leaned in and leaned in and obsessed, and
Well, that's fascinating because I love getting into people's production style, because my experience over the many years is that there's a million kind of different ways that people produce. Some people just kind of sit in the background and said, "No, you're good," and then other people are managing the budget, are the engineer, and do everything. And then there's like all points in between. What's your kind of process with the band is in terms of, are you very much picking the repertoire and the arrangements and the sidemen and so on and so forth, or does it depend on the artist?
it totally depends on the artist. Like with the Larkin Poe records, I've done their last two albums, and those were co-productions, and so it's working hand in hand with them, and we decide exactly who we're going to use as the players. Are very meticulous with the songs. That's one thing that I feel like Nashville has sort of drilled into me throughout my life. I was a staff songwriter for Sony for 8 years, and then wrote for Razor and Tie for a while, and it was just all about songs. And so that's one thing that I love to pay attention to. But then like this record I just made with Ruthie Foster, it was like, it happened so organically. So I feel like I'm at a point where I'm just trying to follow cool, inspiring moments.
Right.
And, with her new album, Mileage, she spent 9-10 days in the studio and came in, and we wrote every song together. And then I'd lay down like a drum beat, and just enough to get a killer vocal from her, which is not hard to do because she just is
Just great.
She's like you. Everything she, does just sounds intentional. And then it was, she goes back to Austin, and I bring over a horn section. I bring over the people that I think would be able to contribute. So I actually just finished an instrumental record for Mike Seal, who's like,
oh yeah,
insane, and Toby Marshall.
Yeah, Toby. Yep.
Your homie played on it. He played great.
Now, Mike Seal's your brother-in-law, right?
My brother-in-law, yeah.
Yeah, he plays great. I've seen some, his Carter Vintage videos, and yeah, he's got a beautiful touch.
Dude, he's just one of those guys. I watch him and I go, I don't know how you did that,
but I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I'm glad you did, but I don't know how you did it.
So yeah, and speaking of that, I mean, his material seems like they're very well crafted, melodic things with probably some improvisation involved, but kind of set pieces. How are you with the process of in making a record like that, as far as how much of it is loosely structured and how much it is meticulous? I guess it depends on the song, but is there for an instrumental record like that, what was your approach in that regard?
Well, my approach with that was Mike has just had a bunch of really great ideas, but they were all fragments of ideas. And so, but he's one of those guys that just sits down and plays brilliant stuff. So it would be a matter of sketching and say, like, this is your idea and it has to go somewhere. So where does it go? And then
Gotcha.
I would create a couple beats and just wait for something to click. And then, okay, now check this out. This is what you did. This is really cool. And now how does it lead into the next section? And what is that? And, and honestly trying to hold on for dear life because some of that music was so over my head, but still just listening to that voice of like, what moves the needle for me as a listener? What keeps me engaged? How do we change the scene once I know what's coming? Maybe it's time for a scene change or something like that, but yeah, I think whenever there's people that are brilliant, you got to follow them, like working with on this Rodney Crowell record that I just finished. He's such a great songwriter and arranger and composer that he would come up with these beautiful arrangements, and we would sketch them out, and the band would have their charts, and the band is like of the highest caliber. And then he starts singing and he catches an emotional wave, and all of a sudden the chart needs to, you can't look at it anymore because he's on a wave and it doesn't make sense to look at that. You got to look at the singer and like follow him because he's just added a few bars. And I just think that all that kind of stuff is worth paying attention to rather than the idea of what something should be. It's like follow what it is in the moment, and that maybe that'll tell you what it's supposed to be.
I can dig that. Now, are a lot of the productions you're doing at your house, or is it kind of going to other studios as well, depending on what you're doing?
Well, so I've just moved into a new studio, and I've been working every day out of here. But my wife and I lived in a duplex, and we lived on the top, which was Unit A, and the studio was on the bottom in Unit B. And
got it.
Over the last couple years, it's like 15 albums made and released into the world out of that little duplex. And God bless my wife. She was like, dude, I love you and I support you, but like, I hear everything you do. And, because it wasn't an intentional space. And then this Rodney Crowell record, we actually went to Dockside Studios in Maurice, Louisiana to do that on this beautiful old Neve, and it was fantastic. But we came home and finished all the overdubs in my studio. But now I'm set up to have full bands tracking in my space, and
so it's a detached space from the main part of the house.
Yeah, I built it from the ground up over the last 18 months and have all of my tools, and we've got 4 isolation rooms and just anything you could want, really. So
all right, well, we'll be right down.
Come on, man. I'm telling you, next time you come to Nashville, just book an extra day and come hang out.
We'd love to.
I'd love nothing more than to have you over to just be in the room. But that's the thing too. I just want to be in the room when cool shit happens,
Yeah, we're coming down there this summer. We're playing at Analog on, I think it's sometime in June. Do you know where that place is? Analog Experience? Yeah, I've never been.
It's a cool spot. Very cool spot.
Hopefully we'll get some humans in there.
At the Hutton Hotel.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. We're coming down to rock some brains. So you've got a youngin' coming.
I got a little son on the way.
Bless you.
In August.
August?
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, I've just been, I'm kind of in like prep mode. I'm thinking about I've been thinking about all the things that I really respect about my father and going like, yeah, my dad had all the right tools, like I gotta go. I'm like, I find myself like in Home Depot I need that tool. I'm going to need this tool when my son, needs to fix something. I need to have the tool, like. You
And
are
next thing
you
you know,
are
though,
you
he'll be.
father?
What's that?
Are you father?
I am. Yeah, I've got 4 of them. My son plays in the band. My son is the drummer in the band.
Oh, nice, dude.
Yeah.
How's that? That's got to be rewarding.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's a beast. Well, he's my size, so we're the same height, but he looks bigger because he's got this Robert Plant hair. But he's my oldest, and he's 30, and then I've got 2 daughters. One's 28, one's 24, and then my youngest son is 21.
Cool.
And so yeah, it's an adventure. As I like to say, I tease people. I was like, "Oh, you're having a kid? Well, next thing you know, it'll be New Year's Eve when they're a senior in high school, and they'll come downstairs and go, 'Mom, Dad, I'm on acid, but it's cool.'"
Oh man, that's great.
And it's fun. You know, I really didn't get my act together until I had kids. So, you know, we found out we were having Dylan, and about 6 months after he was born, I gave up all my debaucherous ways. So I always say, if it wasn't for kids, I may not be alive.
Yeah, man, that's really interesting. I'm curious to, because everyone I meet's like, "Oh, it'll change you. You have no idea. You won't be the same." And I'm kind of like,
Oh, but it's awesome. I mean, it's like you reprioritize things, but as I like to say, it's like your highs are higher and your lows are lower. It's just the whole dynamic range of being. Although now I kind of sound like Katy Perry getting off the thing. You don't know what love is until you.
I did always think that you sounded a little bit like Katy Perry.
Oh my Lord! We should mention that this is the day after Easter that we're doing this. I just got done feasting like a warrior of the night. My wife made this whole thing of these lemon bars, and as much as usually I'm a sucker for the whole Reese's peanut butter egg thing, which I think is the greatest iteration of all the Reese's products. But we were good about not getting any of that this year, and so now I just got this giant vat of these lemon bars, and I've just been feasting. So I am just sugared out of my mind right now.
I love it, man. Yeah, I have a little niece that lives nearby, and all of my wife's family was out of town, so it fell to me to hide the Easter eggs and provide the paint set and all the fun things for her to do. She's glorious. Tiny, so we had a little feast ourselves, and it was fun.
So let's call it Feaster.
Yeah, Feaster.
This was the first time my youngest son wasn't around. He joined the Air Force of all things, and he's actually stationed down in outside of Phoenix. And it was kind of a surprise thing. I mean, all of my kids are artsy fartsies, and then one day he's like, "Yeah, you know what? He was going to college, went to college for 2 years, and decided that not quite sure what I want to do, but I think I want to go into the Air Force, maybe have a little adventure, save some dough, see a little bit of the world." I'm like, "Excuse me, what?" So, wow. But he's did it. But the final, even though he wasn't home yesterday, we talked to him and all that kind of stuff, and that's cool. But when it all sunk in, it was like my youngest is now out of the house, and I don't have to pay for college anymore, Tyler. So it's like I got a raise.
Man. a little more pocket jingle.
Exactly. So that is all well and good. He was a sax player. He was a pretty good sax player too. He was, he had a nice touch and the whole 9 yards. He's like, "Yeah, I don't want to do that." My other daughter, or my daughter that's closest to him in age, is actually a singer-songwriter now, and we're finishing up a record for her. And then my other daughter's kind of an actress. So they're all kind of artsy-fartsies. And of course, Dylan plays drums in the band. So that's all well and good. So
is he a good sax player?
He was, you know what? He had a nice touch and he had a nice vibrato.
Yeah.
And we'd hear him playing songs upstairs, and he would play in the combo, and he was in this at school, and then he was in this other jazz kind of group thing at the Wisconsin Conservatory, and he was playing with some other kind of local hot shots or whatever. And I thought he had a great touch. And Dylan, my other son, would be like, "Dude, you should sit in with us. Let's play the chicken," or something like that. And he just absolutely refused to do it. I think he saw it's like Dad and Dylan that's their thing. I'm going to do something else. So yeah. He was more like a chess champion and all this other kind of stuff. He He was a biochem major, so he's a brainiac. But then
He sounds intelligent.
yes, and so he sniffed. He's been on some tours with us, and I think he's sniffed it out. And we're like, "Did you enjoy doing that, John?" He's like, "Yeah, that was fun, but I'm glad I'm not going on anymore." So I think he realized that the music thing was not for him.
Yeah.
Although I did introduce him to the delicious ways of the Waffle House, and he is appreciative of that knowledge of the delicious.
It's good to, yeah, that's a staple. My wife and I went to a Waffle House just a couple days ago, and because we were going, it's Sunday, man. All of these like breakfast spots in Nashville are just loaded.
Yeah, they're packed, right?
And there's lines out the door, and we go to the Waffle House, and the chef was singing beautifully, of course, in Nashville, and there was no one else in there, and we just had the best time,
Yeah.
It's me and my pregnant wife at the Waffle House.
It sounds like a glorious time.
Yeah.
The waffles there are unparalleled. That's all I'm going to say. They're delightful.
Man, we just recently we have like a little morning coffee ritual, and we've been following along with this studio build on YouTube over the last like couple of years. This guy in Sweden who's building a studio, and one of the suggested videos that came up was your Rick Beato interview.
Oh, no kidding.
And dude, we watched the whole thing. We sat there, we were just going to drink our coffee and launch into the day. And we ended up watching the whole thing. And I was just like, this is so cool to see you on there. And honestly, too, I'd always just get such a kick out of your like comedic ways. Because obviously the playing, we all know that that's great. But then I just get such a kick out of your personality. And I was wondering, do you have any favorite comedians, or are you just naturally funny?
Well, thank you. I mean, I do. My whole family was pretty humorous. My dad was a card, and my mom was as well. And all my brothers and sisters, especially a couple of my sisters, were out of their minds, and still are. I'm of the mindset of, I don't get how people don't think Will Ferrell is hysterical. Every time I see that son of a bitch, I think especially the outtakes are my favorite. And so, yeah, I'm a big fan of his, and everyone from Sam Kinison back in the day to you name it. I do enjoy, but most of the stuff is just, we're always riffing. Like if my wife had a dime for every time that anything she says, I'll turn into like a fucked up song at any given time.
Right.
It drives her insane. But the good thing is that she still laughs at my jokes after all these years. So I have to keep it fresh.
Keep it fresh.
And so as a result, on the home front, there is the bar is pretty high. So I have to.
I love it. That's great, man.
Well, what's great too about the band, you mentioned Toby, the organ player, he's a blast, and his humor level is high. And my son's humor level is very high in kind of a different way. And so there's times where we're driving and we're driving and crying, but it ain't because we're sad, because the hilarity factor is glorious.
That's good, man. It's good for you to laugh,
Well, especially in this business can be a little any business, but this business in particular, that if you don't have a sense of humor, man, you're in for a long haul.
I know. Well, that's an interesting point too, because so much of like you're putting your heart and soul out there, and like all the things that you like truly believe in musically whenever you do this for a living. And as soon as you get a door slammed in your face, or someone says, I don't like that, I met a young musician the other day who was, 22, and he was talking about, he's like, yeah, I was thinking about quitting. And I'm like, oh man, you can't listen to those. Like, just because I got slammed the door in your face doesn't mean there's not another door somewhere.
Exactly correct.
So I think that having a sense of humor about things and not taking it so seriously, and there's not like one way to get to any destination. There's multiple ways, and sometimes you got to connect to a different train to get there or whatever.
No doubt.
But, I do think it is good to not take it all so seriously, because it can be a tough industry, because so much of your self-worth can get tied up into the art,
Yes, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. It was interesting. We was talking the other day, somebody about this, and the whole idea of what you say to young people And some people are real jaded and they'll say, don't do it under any circumstances. And then you got the more, which of course, people said that to me. I mean, my dad, I've told this story a million times. My dad talked to every one of my teachers along the way saying, for the love of God, discourage him for doing this as a living, because he was not from the world of the arts, you know what I mean? So he thought that I'd be starving forever. And, but, and then you have more of the people like Zappa, who's, Zappa used to say two things, never give up and don't stop and never give up are his two things. But I think the best one, I think my daughter heard from somebody, she's going into acting, and it basically said, if you can see yourself doing anything else, do that. Because unless you have that singular vision of this is all I'm going to do, no one's going to stop me, you're kind of against the 8 ball, would not you say?
Yeah, that's interesting because I remember my dad was in his shop. We had a shop out behind our house where he, would work on lawnmowers and kept all of his tools and, dad stuff. And
right.
He was out there, and I kind of, I was about to turn 17, and I had made my plan of moving to Nashville. And so I went out there and I was like, hey, Dad, I need to talk to you about something. I want to move to Nashville, and I'd like your support on it. And I'm not going to ask you for any money. I don't want any money. I got to do this. I just have a feeling I got to do it. I got to follow my gut here. And he's like, well, what are you going to do if it doesn't work out? And I said, I don't know. And he's like, all right, cool. He's like, because he was kind of like looking to see if I had a backup plan, because if I had a backup plan, he was going to think I wasn't serious.
Right.
So.
And that's a scary thing, but it almost, you almost just need that absolute, I think it's not almost, you absolutely have to have that singular focus of nothing will stop me. I'm giving this my complete and utter emphasis.
Yeah.
And because if you're thinking, well, maybe I could do this, and maybe if it didn't, it's like, because I'm sure you knew plenty of people along the way that are just not doing it anymore because they decided that, any kind of other tangential thing that they could have done, they've done for any number of different legitimate reasons. But,
right.
But to your other point too, though, is like once you're doing it and you've decided that, I'm going to do this, make an effort to be a musician and create my own music and do whatever it takes, you find all these little sidetrack things that are all related, but things you never would have thought of, but they present themselves and you're like, oh, I guess I'm going to do that for a while. And then that will supplement this and so on and so forth. So things just kind of, I hate to use that term, manifest, but they do as a result of that absolutely singular focus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, I think about all the things that have like over the years where all of a sudden we're working on a record and we've got a record deal, and we've kind of used the music video budget to go out and tour shows because the shows didn't pay quite enough, but we wanted to do them. So we have to come up with a music video, and it's like, okay, well, I guess we'll just figure out how to do it. And I've always been the dude that's like, okay, I'll download the software and learn how to edit a music video. Next thing you know, I'm editing 5 videos for my friends' bands. And I think it's been interesting to see how just the situations I've found myself in have forced me to diversify and find just like, okay, this train isn't going to get there. I have to connect. And then you get on there and you go, hey, this is kind of cool because it's just a different way of expressing yourself. I've got a camera, and I'm like, hey, Greg, you want to come over and I'll record you and film you and we'll have a good time. And, and I just love capturing moments in all the different ways. And I don't know, it's exciting. It's a fun business to be in, but it's certainly not for the faint of heart.
Indeed. We interrupt this regularly scheduled gristle-infested conversation to give a special shout out to our friends at Fishman Transducers, makers of the Greg Koch signature Fluence Gristle Tone pickup set. Can you dig that? And our friends at Wildwood Guitars of Louisville, Colorado, bringing the heat in the shadow of the Rocky Mountains. So I see this phalanx of pink Stratocasters behind you. So that's kind of your thing, is the pink Strat. Now, you did a run of Fender Custom Shop guitars, right?
I did, yeah, which was super rad. They had, so I got this custom shop pink Strat that was like a 1960s version
Right.
when I was young, and made the first Shakedown record with it, toured with it, got to do shows with Jeff Beck with it, and
Yeah.
he actually played it backstage one day, and I thought that was so cool that he had touched my guitar.
Yes, he's sanctified.
Blessed it.
Yes.
And then it got stolen in Spokane Valley, Washington.
Ah.
Missing for 5.5 years, and in the meantime, my parents took out like a little loan, borrowed some money from a friend, and got me a guitar just like it.
Oh, nice.
And they had like written some stuff on the inside of it, and that kind of became my favorite guitar. And Fender approached me about doing a custom shop guitar, and that's what we did. So
Awesome.
yeah, I think they made 65 of them or 70 of them, something like that, but they turned out really cool.
So I was kind of detecting that maybe you found that guitar that got stolen, but you have not?
Found it in
Oh,
a
you
used
did?
car dealership in Spokane. Somebody traded it in because the owner of the car dealership played in Willie Nelson cover band. And the guy was like, will you give me $1,000 off of this Corolla in exchange for this guitar? And the guy was like, sure. And then took it into River City Guitars in Spokane Valley, which I don't think is around anymore. And they bought the guitar. They said, we'll pay you what you paid for it. They bought it and mailed it to me and wouldn't even accept payment. Like,
oh, you're kidding me.
Class act dudes. And I've got it back. It's I don't know if you can see here.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah.
It. That's the OG, and then this is the one that my parents got me, and then this is the
custom shop run.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I was going to say, say what you will about that thief, but pretty sensible choice on a used vehicle.
Yeah, I just used that for the example. I don't exactly know what the car was. It could have been something different. But the funniest part about that thief is on the back of the guitar, we had done a show opening for Aerosmith, and Steven Tyler had taken a Sharpie and wrote "Pink, it's like red, but not quite."
Right.
And they sanded that off. And then we had done like a Steve Cropper Songwriting Hall of Fame induction, and I had to sing Midnight Hour, which I know, but I was really nervous about singing it in front of him.
Sure.
So I wrote the lyrics on top of the guitar so not to mess them up. They sanded that off. One of my favorite guitarists in Texas is a guy named Alan Haynes.
Oh, yeah, sure.
He'd signed the headstock. They sanded that off, but they never changed the serial number.
Oh, you're kidding me.
It's just a plate. All you got to do is just put a new plate on. So I was able to identify it and, just clearly see where they had sanded off the defining marks.
Crazy. Well, that's awesome. You got it back.
Yeah.
I had a 335 stolen when I was, I don't even know how old I was, probably 22 or something, 21, 22, up in Minneapolis out of my car. And I'm always hoping that I'll come across it one of these days. I can't remember the serial number, but it had this one distinguishing mark on it that when I see it, I'll know if it's it or not.
Yeah.
But so far that has not transpired.
Hey, man, you never know.
One never knows.
I had completely kind of just made peace with not seeing that guitar again, and
Sure.
that was a terrible feeling to wake up, and we left the guitars in the van because we were doing a drive from Vancouver to Nashville, which makes a lot of sense with no shows in between.
Oh, good God.
And, it was about 5 or 6 in the morning, and we thought, dude, we got to pull over and get a hotel room and sleep for a few hours because we were just toast. And we were at that hotel for 3 or 4 hours, and I went out that night to get my toothbrush, and about 3 hours later, the drummer was knocking on the door going, "Hey, you asshole, you left the band door open." And I was like, "What door?" He goes, "The back door." I said, "I didn't go in the back door." And we go out there, and I had a 62 SG that was stolen. We had all our amps. We had a box of Tim Hortons donuts, and there were 12 of them in there, and they left one donut as just sort of a middle finger to us. Isn't that hilarious? The thieves just took all the donuts too.
Oh. That's so weird because I had a dream last night that our van got broken into, and they stole the Vista lights, and they stole they didn't steal my guitars, but they stole the drums and a couple of amps. It was a very vivid, weird dream that they stole that stuff. So hopefully this is not foreshadowing for me.
I hope it's not.
My trip coming up.
Yeah.
Are you going to be at Dallas this year by chance? The Dallas Guitar Show? It's in a couple weeks.
No, I'm not going to make it this year. I'd love to go. Are you going to play?
We are. We're heading down there. We're routing down on Friday. We're going to be in Evansville, Indiana. Then we're going over to Old Knuckleheads in Kansas City. And
I love Knuckleheads.
I love that place. And then Mercury Lounge in Tulsa.
Great.
And then we're going to the Continental Club in Houston.
Cool.
Which I have not been. And then we do the Dallas Guitar Show. And then we're doing Saxon Pub and then Sam's Burger Joint. And then we drive home.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
It'd be a nice little Texas trip.
Bunch of great shows, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be good, clean fun, and a good time to get out of here. The weather's been a little dicey around here.
Has it? Cold?
A little cold. You know, it's just like today. It's just kind of 40 and rainy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you know, it's at least we're not getting untold pestilence like they do in most places. But be that as it may.
Well, we my wife and I were driving in Nashville. You know, we had a tornado scare where we had a tornado warning in the middle of the night and the sirens are going off and all that. And so the next day there was, or maybe 2 days later, they said, oh, it's a tornado watch. We're expecting a tornado. I walk outside. I'm like, it's beautiful. There's no rain, no clouds, nothing.
Right.
And her mom had made dinner. I said, there's no tornado. Let's go on. And by the time we get there, it's like, all right, 90-mile-an-hour wind incoming to Nashville. I said, I think I might have steered us into danger. We better head on home.
Oh.
And so we get in the car and I'm listening to the live stream on Nash Severe Weather. And they say, if you're downtown, you're out of time. And about that time, this massive gazebo blows up through the air and lands like a foot in front of my truck.
Oh my God.
It was horrifying. And I was going, oh my gosh, this was a bad move. I've led our family into danger.
Oh, I'll tell you what, tornadoes are nothing to toy around with.
No way.
Nature is not to be trifled with. It's the bottom line.
Yeah, that's true.
So are you a guitar collecting fiend, or you just have the stuff you like and you don't go too crazy, or do you have the affliction?
I'm not really a guitar collector. I have a lot of guitars, but I've accumulated them very slowly.
Got it.
Well, I say slowly. It'd be probably fast for most people, but I collected guitars a lot more when I was younger. I used to work in a guitar shop.
Okay.
And so I never got paid because I would just always put whatever money was owed to me down on a guitar and then I would work it off, So I have a bunch of guitars that came into One Lamar Avenue in Paris, Texas, where someone would come in and they'd be like, I've got this 60s, Mustang bass. And I'd be like, I will buy it.
I will take it.
Stuff like that. So, but lately my thing has just been buying microphones and preamps. And compressors.
Got that bug.
Yeah. I go deep down with that bug.
Yeah.
So.
Now, how about amps? Are there certain amps that you like to use in the studio as opposed to what you use live and that whole kind of thing? Or is there a consistency across the board?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of amp heads on a switcher here in the control room. So some of my favorite heads are just all able to be switched, and I can switch between cabs and amps, really fast. And I will say I did do a signature amp with Supro.
Okay.
Recently, called the Black Magic Reverb TB, and it's a very similar amp to their Black Magic Reverb. It's just beefed up a little bit, a little higher power, more headroom. And I'm obsessed with that amp, so I've been using that a lot. I just got one of those David Grissom, Paul Reed Smith amps, which
that's a good amp. Yeah.
Badass amp, man. I love that. There's a guy in Nashville that makes amps called Tyler Amps.
Huh.
And my wife bought me one for Christmas one year just because it had my name on it, and I've become obsessed with his amps. So I have a bunch of his amps around the studio. But yeah, I have a ton of stuff laying around. I don't really go out and collect amps. I have more amps than I need and am able to get just about any sound. once you have like 3 or 4 things that you know really well, you can normally find the thing.
Yes.
What about you?
I kind of the same as you were saying. I accumulate things, and every now and again, I'll get something new. A buddy of mine that I went to high school with, he got a hold of me, and he's like, "Hey, my uncle, I'm kind of in charge of his affairs. He's sick, and he was a guitar player, and he's got this old Gibson. You want to take a look at it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take a look at it." So he brings it over, and it was a guitar I wasn't all that familiar with. It was a 57 ES. I'm gonna get it wrong. I've already forgot it. Not a 255. Yeah, I think that might be right. With the Florentine, the dog ear P90s, blonde, and I was like, "Yeah, this is pretty awesome." So I called my buddy Steve from Wildwood, and I called Dave from Dave's Guitars. I said, "What do you think this thing is worth?" And put him on speaker so that my buddy could hear it. And I was like, "Oh, it really isn't all that much money." He's like, "Yeah, if you sold it through us, you'd have to get like 25% and yada, yada, yada." He goes, "So, this amount of money would be good." And I said to my buddy, I was like, "Well, shit, I'll give you that for it." So,
Yeah.
so I ended up buying that. That's usually, with my Reverend deal, when they come up with a new color, I have to get one. So, so I've been accumulating guitars that way. But I just got a kind of a fun little, I'm a Hendrix fanatic, but I got this new set of pickups that I did with Fishman, new Strat pickups that are in one of my new Reverends, but they're also making a preloaded pick guard that they're selling. And I thought, well, it'd be cool to have a guitar to pop it on to see what it sounded like. So I just got one of these like Japanese 69 Strat type things, and I popped my pickguard in it, and man, it sounds majestic.
Sounds sweet.
So I've got that, and then little things will come along. Like there's this, I had a thing for like, the Keith Richards. Mm-hmm. It's a 74, but someone refinished it this cool green, and so I had to have that.
Yeah.
So there's just little things like that, but I don't go too crazy, and I don't. I'm not obsessed with. I mean, I've got a 53 Telly. That's probably the vintage guitar that I have.
Yep.
But I got that.
That's one of the best ones you could have.
Right. And I lucked out on that. Someone had a guy passed away, and his brother was put in charge of his stuff, and he brought the stuff into Wildwood, and there was a 54 Strat, and that went right away. And then there was this 53 Telly, and I toyed around with getting it it was still there for a couple months. And anyways, I ended up driving out to Colorado with a van full of stuff, custom shop guitars of this, that, and the next thing. And I just unleashed a bunch of stuff in order to get that. And yep. I'm glad I did, because that thing, that just sitting around the house playing that guitar is,
sometimes you got to sacrifice a few to get the good one.
That is correct. And I
did that recently with I found this Gibson country and western acoustic.
Oh yeah.
And a friend of mine called me, and he was like, "Hey, will you go over to Blues Vintage, which is a Nashville guitar shop, and will you go over there and play some acoustics with me and help me pick out an acoustic?" And he fell in love with a Martin, and I was like, "Dude, this is the guitar.
Right.
This is the one." And I go home, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, "Be quiet, mind," and the next day I'm thinking about it, and the next day I'm thinking about it, and I go back and I play it again, and it's still the same feeling, and I was like, damn it. So I put like 10 guitars in my car and a bunch of pedals, and went over there. I was like, "What do you want? Do you want any?"
Make me an offer I can't understand.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing with acoustics. I mean, I don't know about you, but I always grew up as like, well, Martin, I got to have a Martin. So I saved up my dough, and I got a HD28, and I used that on a bunch of sessions and whatnot, and never really gigged with it all that much. And then I got a hankering for like a 00028. And so I got one of those, and I love the sound of that. And that's actually, I use that more these days. But then I realized it's like the way I play, and a Gibson can take the banging so much better than a Martin. Yeah. And then it's like, I love the sound of, the rosewood on the 28s and stuff, but it's really a D18 or a 00018 is really, that mahogany can kind of take the beating I administer a little bit more. And that's why the Gibsons sound so great. Obviously, they're both good for different things, but where do you gravitate?
Well, I had recently just got a Martin Super D,
Okay.
which there have been a lot of jokes made about that because my wife liked it so much that she started taking mine out on tour, and so I called Martin. I was like, please God, help this woman get a Super D of her own, because she keeps taking mine and I want to play it, and so now she has the same guitar, so we technically have Super double Ds, and we've like, I say we liberally. We've been joking about that. I've been joking about it. But I do love that guitar. It's like basically Martin's take on what a J200 would be. It's an oversized Martin.
Got it.
And I'm kind of obsessed with that low end.
Right.
But like my Gibson, it's got more of that, like you can dig into it and all the strings are real even. I can play it very hard and get the Townsend thing.
Exactly.
Or whatever. But yeah, I don't, I love them all. They all have.
They all got a thing.
Brian Sutton came over to my place to borrow a cabinet, and I was showing him my Martin that I'm into, and he was like, "Do you want to see mine?" And so he brings out his like 30s.
Oh Jesus.
E28, and he started playing it, and I understood. I was like, "Oh, I see why people pay
the
what
big
they pay
simoleons." Right.
Especially when you have a guy like that playing it who just knows how to touch a guitar.
Right.
Because when I played it, it didn't sound like that. He's like, the way everything he's doing, holding the guitar, touching the guitar, the picks he's using, it's all designed to make that guitar sing.
Right. So I got you. Yes.
It was really fun to hear him play, like sitting in front of the guitar.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what's it like having your wife be a fiendish guitar player as well? It's just got to be wild.
It's great. I mean, I love it. There's a lot of music in our family between my wife Rebecca and her sister Megan is a crazy lap steel player, and I mean they're so musical and cool that it makes holiday jams really fun. And obviously Mike Seal as well. So we do have a lot of jams at family gatherings. Rebecca and I were introduced by an engineer producer here in Nashville to write songs together. And we ended up, kind of striking up a relationship and never really writing a song until a couple years into the relationship.
Oh, no kidding.
Honestly. But it's been really fun to write tunes together and work out parts on, rocking jams and record them. And
yeah.
They're killing it right now, and I'm excited for them. It's been a lot of fun, and I got such a kick that whenever their Blood Harmony album won the Grammy for contemporary blues or whatever, because I'm just going, it shouldn't be this easy, to make a record. Like with them, it's just like stay out of the way, because what they do is just so naturally cool.
Yeah.
It's like write the song, make it a good song, and stay out of the way. And I was just laughing. I'm going, man, it's neat to get a Grammy for an album that was made in a basement.
It's awesome.
And like with the Ruthie Foster record, Rebecca and I wrote 9 of the 10 songs on that album with Ruthie, just sitting in our kitchen, and it was a lot of fun. It's fun collaborating with her.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What's it like, at this point, you have 2 Grammys under the belt. I mean, for some people that would probably be like, oh my God, this is fantastic. Other people would just be like, yeah, well, that's, it's just part of who I'm, it's part of the whole journey, or so on and so forth. But it's got to be a moment where you're just like, I've got that cred now. I can branch out and do more because I've got this in the bank. Is that the way you feel about it?
I don't know, man. I mean, I just feel like I helped facilitate records for great artists. I don't keep the Grammys in the studio.
Right.
They're in the house because I don't want to look at that shit whenever I'm recording.
Right, I hear you.
I don't want to think, what can we win with this album? It's like I just want to.
I mean, and I definitely didn't mean that, but you know what I mean. Just the idea of, there's people that probably that's their goal is that, but then there's other people who just like what you're describing. You just want to do the work and you want to have fun and so on and so forth. But those things that so many other people take as the big gravitas, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
allows you to just be like, oh, okay, well, that's done. For people that need to have that kind of validation in order to take me however they want to take me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, man, and I think this goes back to our what we were talking about earlier about like, you know, kind of being able to have a thick skin and not be discouraged when doors get slammed in your face. The thing that I have realized more and more over the years is that the work is the reward, you know?
Absolutely.
Like
Totally.
if you were to come over and hang out and want to walk in the studio and just be like, "What's up, man?" And if I had a jam to play for you that I felt like I could hang my hat on, that's it for me.
Right.
It's yeah, it's really cool, and it's cool, especially for an artist like Ruthie, because she's been nominated for countless Grammys. It's cool to see her get artists who deserve it get their flowers,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I got
you
you.
know.
Yep.
And it's also neat to like get a Grammy in the mail, you know. But like I got Grammy in the mail and then immediately went to Home Depot and bought a new water heater because our water heater failed, you know. So it's I don't I don't take it lightly, but it is the work that is the reward for me, and getting to just be in the room with talented people and try to capture it to the best of my ability. And yeah, I don't know.
I dig it. I
It's a
dig it
head trip.
all.
It's a head trip.
So what's on the docket coming up here? What's the next series of things other than, of course, the impending arrival of the man-child?
Yeah, I've just been working on some music for myself. You know,
Awesome.
we're going out on the road doing shakedown shows in June and July. We're going out with Clutch.
Ah,
Which will
wicked.
that'll be a great fun tour. That's almost all of June, and then going to Texas in July and other places. And yeah, then the baby boy comes in August, and I think we're probably going to take. Well, I know we're going to take baby boy, provided all goes well, which I'm sure it will. He'll be going on the road with Larkin Poe and on their fall tour, which means I'll be going on the road with Larkin Poe on their fall tour, just to
Yes.
hang out with my son, and you know, make sure he's not getting up to anything, you know, any bad behavior on the road.
Fantastic.
So I'm yeah, just I'm out here working in the studio all day.
So what's your current lineup with your band?
It's the same dudes. It's
Same guys.
same dudes, man. I've been playing with Caleb Crosby on drums since I was 17 years old, and Graham Whitford, I think, joined 2 years afterwards. And then it's bass. Actually, we have a Diego Nevada who's been playing with us for a couple years now, or a year and a half or so. I think that, you know, Caleb is in an interesting position right now because he just got hired on by Kelsey Ballerini to go out and do these massive arena shows.
Oh, good Lord.
So he's not going to be able to make all of the upcoming shakedown gigs, but we're glad that he's getting to travel in the big leagues and, you know, have a cushy gig and make his money because he deserves it.
Money is, you know, it's not everything, but it is a little bit.
Yeah, he's got a second child on the way as well. So, you know, it's been fun he's got a little son that's 3 years old who's like basically on fire when he comes over, and he comes into the studio and he's like, you know, to hell with your settings, turns all the knobs, and pretty fun.
So obviously, you know your way around the studio. What was the learning curve like for you? You kind of intimated that you were the person always downloading things and figuring the technical side of things out. So were you pretty studio savvy? Have you been for quite some time, or was it kind of a learning curve once you decided to get into the production game, as it were?
Certainly a learning curve. I took when I did my first publishing deal with Sony, I realized pretty quickly that I would take an advance from them, and then they would have like an allotted budget for songwriting demos. So I would go and write every day of the week with a Nashville songwriter, and then I would spend $300 to $600 making a demo, and then that would just get tacked onto the bill that I owed them. And so the next year when it was time for my advance to come, I took just enough money I needed to survive, and I spent the rest buying microphones and a working computer and a, you know, humble set of speakers. And over the years it just kind of became more of an obsession, and anytime I would start a new project or have any disposable income, I would buy a new preamp or a microphone, And so I was very lucky to have a couple of mentors who would just let me ask them questions, and they weren't guarded with the keys. They're
Right.
like,
The
if
keys
you want
to
to
the kingdom.
drive, you have to do this.
Right.
And would show me stuff about parallel compression, or why you would EQ certain things a certain way, and how to capture stuff and not commit too heavily on the front end to box in a mix engineer, or if you want this to be the sound, don't be afraid to commit. Like, and then just working with a bunch of different people, and through like having the shakedown, we would work with Vance Powell or Andy Johns or some of these great producer engineers, and I would just ask questions and take notes.
Cool.
And I would just use that when it came time to make my decisions on what gear I thought could benefit me and the results I wanted to have. So
And so how much are you into the analog gear versus the digital stuff and so on and so forth?
I love the analog stuff. I mean, I'm recording. I'm not recording to tape.
Okay.
In my studio. I have but yeah, I've got an analog API console in here, and then I've got like, a bunch of old like Ampex stuff and gate stuff, and probably 20 channels of tube analog preamps, as well as a bunch of great solid state preamps and tube compressors, all that kind of stuff. I'm obsessed with it. I've got the tape echoes and analog reverbs. But I do like to I like hitting analog on the front end. But with that said, we made one record just kind of as an experiment during the pandemic, using nothing but a Universal Audio Apollo, and it sounds great to me.
Yeah.
We didn't use a single piece of outboard gear. So I think I talked to Richard Dodd, who's this great engineer and mastering engineer. When I was first moving to Nashville, I remember calling him and asking what the best microphone was, and he said, the one that works when you need it to. So, for me, it is just a matter of like being able to capture the stuff whenever people are ready to.
Perfect.
What's your take on it? Like, are you into the are you like doing a lot of modeling these days? Are you still using a real amp? Like,
no, I make loud noises. That's the problem. I've always been horribly technically inane when it came to recording. I mean, the only reason why we got this live streaming rig was during the pandemic, when I needed to do the live streams from the house, and just gradually it went from I was using this. Fishman sent me a laptop with this USB microphone, and that's all I used for the initial few live streams. And then next thing you know, my son's like, dude, we should get some stuff so that we can interface and get some kind of like, these are words I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah.
So then next thing you know, we've got everything mic'd up, and we got cameras and all this other kind of shit.
Sounding good, yeah.
But it's not good enough. I mean, I've recorded just guitar tracks here at the house, but whenever we record, we go into a studio. A buddy of mine's got a place that we go into, or Toby's got a buddy of his up in the Twin Cities we've gone to record with. But I don't do any, I use my amps, and we play live. I try to do everything as live as possible. And,
that's awesome.
That's just kind of how we've been rolling. We got a session coming up where we're going down to Sweetwater to do. So I think you guys are going down there to do something, or Larkin Poe's going there to do a recording workshop.
Just did a masterclass song from scratch
session. That we're going down there to do that. We're going to come a couple days early and record a few more tunes. And Jimmy Hall's going to come in and probably do a couple tunes with us.
I love Jimmy, man. What a legendary voice.
Yes. So we're going to record some stuff there and see what we get. And
tell Jimmy I have one of his hats, man. I was just cleaning out the old studio, and I have one of his hats that he left on a bus or something on that Jeff Beck tour that I was on.
Awesome.
Because he was out singing, man.
Jimmy is a force of nature. That's something. I mean, he's, mid-70s and sings and gets on stage and plays harp. I mean, the guy's a madman. I mean, he's definitely an inspiring character.
Ever. He always delivers.
Yes. He nails it. And then we did this.
So cool.
We did, he was on one of the tunes from the last record, and we were going to do this music video for it. We're down with Devin Ullman. So Devin brings us all into St. Louis to do this this video. And of course, I don't remember what the hell I played. And so I'm trying to listen to this song like, what am I miming? And but Jimmy was so meticulous, taking notes, making sure he had everything ready to go. It's like, so awesome that a person with that stature, with that kind of a career at his age, he still just totally gives a shit. Because as you were saying earlier, it's all about the music and being in the moment and doing the best job you can at that point in time. And he's definitely all about that, which is awesome, because there are many who do not look at it that way.
Yeah, no, I know. It's never, I don't think that, and I think that's what's interesting too about like the way that people make records now. So many, I've worked with a lot of young guys who come in and they're like, was that good enough? And I'm like, I don't understand that question. Like,
Right.
Was that good enough? Like, if you have a doubt, like, are we looking for good enough?
No, that is a strange way to say it. You wanted people to, was that the one is what you want to hear.
Yeah. Is that the stuff you want to play for your mailman when he walks by,
Right. Exactly.
Man, I would love, next time y'all are in town though, I'd love to have you over just to, hang out, because the studio that I've been building, it's designed for live moments like that.
Excellent.
It's been so fun to have people come by, and the room just sounds beautiful, to where when you get the guitar and the bass amp and everything bleeding right into the drums, it just sounds supposed to,
glorious. Well, I'll definitely let you know when we're going to be down there. We're going to be down there in early June, and then we're coming back in August to do a show with LA Guns of all people. So that'll be kind of fun. And I think it's a solo show we're doing at the Analog. Cool. And but I'll definitely would love to come over and cause trouble.
I would love to come check out the show too.
Yes, please.
Are you
Listen, my friend, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Hey, are you still using that contraption of a pedal board that you had the last time I saw you?
Oh, yeah. This beast.
That has, I was just watching you use it going, how in the world do you know what is what?
It's got, well, you know what? I just gotten it then. It was funny as that, here's the beast right here.
Oh my gosh.
Remember when I had that blue thing? I didn't realize that you actually take that off and it becomes transparent. But there was this plastic thing on the front of it which tells you what everything is. I had just gotten the pedal and I was like, why is that thing blue? I guess that looks cool. And then the Greeks called me who make this thing and like, yeah, you take that off.
Oh my gosh.
But what's funny is that, I go in phases where I just go straight into an amp and it's got reverb, I'm good, turn it up and away you go. And then during the pandemic, when, we're doing all the live streams, I was like, yeah, it's kind of fun to have a little delay or, a little univibe here and there or a little flange or whatevs. So then I started using a paddleboard again. And then my buddies from Jam Paddles were like, hey, what if we did like a signature thing? And I'm like, okay. So we put together this stuff, and I mean, sometimes I'm using like one thing on it, but it's nice to have all the, but what's interesting lately is that I haven't been using an amp with reverb. I've been using that Tone King Royalist, which is more of like a Marshall type of a situation. So I set it kind of like a JTM 45, and I set it so it's pretty clean. If I lean on it a little bit, it starts to give, but it doesn't have reverb. So I've just been using a little bit of slapback delay.
Cool.
Instead of reverb, and I kind of digging that. So I kind of keep that on all the time, but sometimes I turn that off and just have it dry as a bone. And I love it. That's a delight as well.
Yeah. Hey man, you eat beef every night. Sometimes you want chicken.
That's right. Doggone it. Well, listen, my friend, you take care of yourself. I hope to see you soon.
Great to see you, buddy.
Likewise. Thanks for doing this. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you, man. Later.
Have a good. Bye-bye.
Well, thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Chewing the Gristle. We certainly do appreciate you stopping by. Make sure you tell your friends all about us. I think they might enjoy themselves. So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.